Welcome back, everybody. This is Bio for another episode of Sun Chasing Success. Today, we're going to take it easy a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness, getting our holistic house in order, and just talk with a good longtime friend of mine. He's a spiritual brother and companion. He lives in Jacksonville, Florida. I met him in Clarksville, Tennessee. His name is Joseph Roz Harmon. And we've known each other for about 20 years. So this is going to be a great conversation. And hopefully we can talk about some topics that we've been discussing for 2 decades now about consciousness, spirituality, self-improvement, and just being the best that you can be. So without further ado, welcome.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Hey, man, it's an honor to have you. And number one, I always got to start with gratitude because it's a beautiful thing to know each other for 20 years and we're both here, still shining. Because we didn't know what the future would hold 20 years ago when we started talking about these things. We didn't know if we'd even know each other 20 years later. And here we are conversing. And we had a chance to talk again in Miami. Was that 2016, 15?
It's about 3 years ago.
I think it was 2016. So, yeah. So that was beautiful. And so, but how's everything going with you, man? Like,
life is good, man. Happy, just in a place of appreciation. Just constant gratitude and gratification. Like, look, being happy with where I am, what I have, and by what I have, I don't mean necessarily material things. I mean, I've been able to buy myself some stuff, but just internally, not struggling with it.
Got the home gym
I'm in my home gym right now. And I actually put that together because I started to work from home and it wasn't possible for me to get out on the schedule that I wanted to. And I also wasn't able to do some of the things I wanted to do. Like the gym has, this setup to where it has multiple stations of the same thing. So you like, if you want to bench, there's like 4 benches in there. But sometimes you want to do a variety of exercise types. And it just doesn't allow you to hit a circuit like you want. So
you got the other guy on the gym doing his sets, and then you got to come back.
And if you're not there, he steps in, and it just kind of stops your routine. So I was able to build it home, and I'm thankful for that. But the gratification I was talking about is just kind of getting into this internal place to where you're just at peace, man. Like a different kind of peace that just takes over everything, and it becomes the most important thing you have, and you just rest in that spot, man.
And that's a beautiful thing, man. And when I talked about you in one of my other episodes, I remember when I met you, it was like 2001. I had just left Vanderbilt. I was struggling in what I was going to do with my life, I was literally like sleeping till the afternoon every day. And I remember circling this little ad in the Convergence advertisement for working in this call center and just going in there and having a training class. And just sitting there and you were asking us about stuff and just meeting you. And it's just amazing that you've always had that same energy. And one of the biggest things that we discovered and talked about was the practice of meditation. So I want to talk about that today, man, and just let people tap into some of this energy that we've shared for so many years, even since the first moments that you discovered doing that for yourself. Let's talk about that and then how we met and then go into the meditation and stuff.
Yeah, sure. If I'm honest, that all started for me when I was like 7 years old, but I was chasing the myth. I was too young. Yeah, too young to know the difference between reality and film and legend and myth. And I was always on this thing of when people would say, that's not possible. Well, how do you know? That was always my answer. So I started in martial arts. I still practice martial arts to this day, but that was the start of my journey. But it was watching Kung Fu theater, watching Bruce Lee on the silver screen. Because at that time, before VHS, you had to go to the theater to see that stuff. So my uncles would take me there, and I watched one man just destroy an army of men.
Okay.
And even though he was fighting furiously and there was some anger in there, he was still humble and reciting like quotes and wisdom and it was humble at certain points. And I wanted to be that. Wow. So I was like, well, what do I need to do that? So I had other things to look at that inspired me, but it was seeing him on film. Now, what I mean by the myth and the legend is, glowing, like your whole body just emitting an immense light that's visible to other
Bruce
people,
Leroy.
even in the dark.
Like Bruce Leroy.
Yeah, like Bruce Leroy. Jumping in the air and flying. Because I would go out in the park and play with my friends, and we would try to recreate those things. In my quiet time, when I was by myself, I was still a kid, so I did kid things.
Yeah.
But in those moments where I didn't have video games because they didn't really have them yet, or they weren't on such a global scale, I just spent time trying to recreate the glow, man. Like, how deep inside of myself do I need to walk to unlock that? What is this mystery? What is this potential? Who are these people they keep quoting and talking about? And so what are they seeking? And I just, that was the start of it for me. So that's where it all came from. And it literally has been my entire life. And I don't know how to be anything else, And other than that.
That's what's deep about it, because I had a certain sense of that as well. It was just kind of like being alone a lot, having that imagination, reading a lot, and just seeing different things. I think for me, the athletic part was the soccer, football, watching the heroes and sports and everything. And I think when we met, it's kind of like, it's like two kindred spirits that have known that
definitely.
They've always had that deeper kind of thinking and stuff.
Absolutely.
And now what state were you born in? And then you ended up like in California, and then.
So my father was military. So that's how that started. Right. And that's why I traveled so much. So I was born in Beaumont, Texas, down at the swamp, right at the Texas-Louisiana border. And to this day, like, that's just that it was one of the rice capitals of the United States. But so few people know about it because times have moved on, and where agriculture and all that stuff comes from overseas now. And there's just less of the identity in that, but there's not a lot of wealth there. There's wealthy people there, but not a lot of wealth. My father understanding that in order for his marriage to my mother to work out and to provide for his son, they needed to do something different. He joined the military, and I'm thankful for that. I wasn't old enough to remember that move and all those things, but I look at photos and there's flashes in my mind about those events. But from there, we moved a lot. We went overseas to Europe a few times.
So you had the majority
of my life in Cali. And then we moved to when they closed the military base that we were at in California, which is what moved us to Tennessee, which started the steps for you and I to one day meet.
Because my mother was working at the base there in Clarksville, Tennessee. She happened to be there, and then I came around when I was in college, so.
Right.
Well, actually, I had spent some time there when I was 14, when she first moved there. And there was a few people that I met that eventually later that I ran into and then knew through you, but I didn't actually meet you until I came back after having been in college for a little while. But I think
it was a small place, so eventually we all know the same people. But our chance meeting just happened to be that I think you and I both made some conscious decisions unconsciously that brought us together. Yeah. So.
And another thing. I was 7 years old, man, was the first time I heard hip hop, the Fat Boys tape, 1987. And that became also a part of my visions of what a superhero is. This ability to speak supernaturally. And so that was a big part of my kind of like imagination and spiritual quest too. Now you were an all-out b-boy as well, right, in Cali?
I was, and public speaker and poet and all that. But everything you just hit on, man, it's the same root. I think what we undervalue is the power of words. When there was a time period before television and radio where word was everything you had. I mean, it was literally thought without sound. It was words without sounds. It was picture without eyes. It was ears without hearing sound. Again, it just kept coming back to that. So word was everything. And then ultimately words is just mathematics, because it's the formula that equals the outcome. So being an MC meant learning that discipline to understand, becoming that scientist and that physicist to know what chemical combination formulated or resulted in
that vibration,
in what you wanted it to. The vibration, that's perfect. It could have been you were creating light through the story, you were creating darkness through the through the experience that you had, but you could time travel with that if you knew the math.
And that's
And
deep,
I was in love. I was in love with hip hop for that reason, man. Like
now you were artistic as well, like with the graffiti and physically,
yeah,
or
yeah, I
just a
did
little bit?
graffiti. I did basic art too. Like, I say basic art, and forgive me for that, but I just meant what most people think about it, like drawing on paper
Okay,
and
yeah,
colored
yeah, yeah.
pencils and markers and paint and crafting. So I used my hands to do it too. It's just another form of expression. But graffiti art was a way to to create the form of what I was thinking, also with words. So I could rap it, but I could also see it. You know, like I could bring it out, and other people would get it and evaluate it for the same reason. Like they wouldn't just say, "Oh, what does that say?" They would say, "Look at those curves and look at that color, and I love the light, and this says this, and this is really profound." And we would say things like "dope," you know, "That's dope," you know,
Fly,
and
fresh, yeah.
yeah, and all those things. But it was more than just the fact that you put something on paper. It was that they could relate to it, they could connect to it instantly.
Right. So doing all of this, I know that when I was younger, I had these perceptions and these kind of like insights and visions and different things. But I guess, the